Hey everyone, Anthony Scott here of ToyHypeUSA.com. Today we are reviewing the 22nd subscription box to FanHome's Build Your Own R2-D2, which includes issues 83 through 86. Special shout out and thank you to FanHome for sending along for review. It's greatly appreciated. To subscribe, click off the hyperlinks off of ToyHypeUSA.com or the links right in the YouTube description just below. Each of these magazines come with parts to continue on with the build. First up is issue number 83, and here's a look at the cover, as well as the parts that we're going to be using for assembly. Inside this issue, building R2-D2, building the body frames and rotary sensors. Inside Star Wars, planning a lightsaber battle, part 2. And for understanding robotics, we have 5G networks. First article, planning a lightsaber battle, part 2. This is from the Phantom Menace. Spoiler alert, Qui-Gon Jinn gets killed by Darth Maul. And we have a continuation here. For robotics, 5G networks. And there's a look at the other side. And now we have the build, body frames, and rotary sensors. Here is a breakdown of all the parts, which you see here. This is where it's going to go. And here's a look at the steps. So the first step, we're going to be assembling the top ring, which is just a round ring. And next, we're going to be fitting the rotary sensors. Here's a closer look at the steps. A continuation. Make sure to take your time. There's no need to rush. And completed assembly. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And assembling the framework. So now we're going to be assembling what we just did right on top of the framework. And this is what's going to be used to hold up R2-D2. This is the completed assembly right here. It's going to look like this when it's done. And testing the rotary sensors. You can also test them. And there's your look. So I'm going to do this now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the first part of the completed assembly. The ring is attached, as are these sensors right here. And here's a look at the other side. Here's a look at the frame. The top part is now on. And there is your closer look at that. This part here goes onto the side with this one bar. And I am now moving on to the next issue. Next up is issue 84. And here's a look at the parts we're going to be using for the build. Inside, building R2-D2, installing the arms and motor housing. Inside Star Wars, A New Approach. And for Droid Directory, we have R2-D2, Astromech Part 6. First article, A New Approach. More on Episode 1. A continuation. For Droid Directory, R2-D2 Astromech Part 6. And now we have a look at the build. Here's a breakdown of the parts, and for the steps, we're going to be assembling the pivots. Here's a closer look at all the parts. A lot of little parts here. And here is look at the steps. A continuation. And building the clutch. Assembling the clutch linkage. And now fitting the arms and installing the arms. And we have fitting the motor. And completed assembly. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And testing the arms. So I'm going to assemble this now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the arms. This is now complete. The pins are a little bit hard to push through, so just be aware of that. Here's a look at the completed assembly. This is all finished now. I will say on this piece right here, finding those tiny little screws, it was very difficult. Those little tiny silver screws, those are the tiniest screws that have been offered so far, and those were located in a bag that we haven't used yet, so just be aware of that. The arms, you're going to be moving this piece and that will release the arms, so you're going to be able to move them as shown, which is pretty neat. And here's another look at the back, just giving you guys a complete look. So I am now moving on to the next issue. Up next is issue number 85, and here's a look at the parts we're going to be using for the build. Inside this issue, building R2-D2, fitting the side details and adding the shoulder joints, Inside Star Wars, The Force is with you, and for Droid Directory, we have R2-D2 Astromech Part 7. First article, Building the Galaxy, The Force is with you. A continuation. And we have R2-D2 Astromech Part 7. Great images on here. And for robotics, NASA's robots. And now we are continuing on with the build. So here's a breakdown of all the accessories. We're getting a ton more screws. Here is a closer look at that. And here's a look at the rest of the parts. You should have all of these in the bag. If not, reach out to FanHome, let them know. They should be able to send you a replacement. And here is a look at the steps, fitting the side details. We've done this before, so you should be an expert by now. A continuation. And completed assembly. So that is what this is going to look like. And we are adding the shoulder joints. Here is a closer look at that. And completed assembly. So you're going to be adding these two side pieces here. I'm going to assemble all this now, and let's take a closer look. Here's a look at the first part. The panel and all the details are done. And these are screwed right into the back, as you see there. Here's a look at the shoulder joints. These came with a previous bag from earlier on in the set. So these are not included in this box, or especially this bag. You're going to have to go back to your parts and get these. These are placed on by a little bit of an angle, which you see there. And I am now moving on to the next issue. Up next is issue 86, and here's a look at the parts we're going to be using for the build. Inside this issue, building R2-D2, completing the front panels. Inside Star Wars, moving on swiftly. And we have for Droid Directory, R2-D2 Astromech Part 8. First article, moving on swiftly. We have a continuation. R2-D2 Astromech Part 8. And now we are continuing the build. On the left is a breakdown of all the parts, and on the right we are continuing on. Here is a closer look at all these parts. We've done the compartments before. Some of these are probably new. And here is a look at the steps, assembling the arm. And completed assembly. Fitting the arm to the component. Once assembled, you're going to be placing it inside as shown, screwing it in, completed assembly, and fitting the compartment door. We've done this before. And completed assembly. Installing the tool compartment. So it's going to go right to that panel we finished in the last step. And joining the front panels. Connecting it as shown. Screwing it in. There's a closer look there. And there's your closer look. So I'm going to assemble this now, and let's take a look. Here's a look at the completed assembly. The side doors panels open up. These compartments also open up as well. Nothing inside. Here is a closer look at the arms. This is the arm we just did. This is the arms that we've previously done. Just be careful as these have been glued. So there's a look at R2's arms. And on the other side, here's a look at the back with all the screws and everything. This is what it's going to look like. And that's a wrap on this box. My recommendation would be to subscribe. I'm loving the detail and the quality on this figure. I can't wait until he is completely built. As you can see, the body is coming along nice, and we will continue to review R2-D2. I have more boxes to get to. Thanks again to FanHome for sending along for review. That's greatly appreciated. To subscribe and for more information, just click off the link in the YouTube description or the hyperlinks off of toyhypeusa.com. Thanks in advance. I am Anthony Scott. Thanks again for watching this video, and stay tuned for more coverage on reviews.